Joe Maruschek, effective August 1st, 2021.
Yes. Well, it's honestly, if I were to sum it up, it's been an honor having you as superintendent. Really appreciate the way you've moved the school district forward and everything you've done for the school district. You've seen some bad times and some good times. So it's very much appreciated.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I can say, since I've been on the committee almost as long as you've been the superintendent, it has been tremendous. I mean, Dr. Maruschek, you have taken us and navigated us through a lot of difficult times in the early days and some other pieces. And while the district is sad to see you go, you definitely leave us in a much better place we are today than we were back in the day when you first came aboard. So thank you.
Thank you. So
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your years of service. Very much appreciated. I'm excited for you and your new adventure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's not often educators get to chase a dream project, so I'm really excited for you.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for all that you've done. We wish you well in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Stay in touch.
I certainly
You can
will.
watch these in the future.
Yeah, I
You might even promote your campus.
I don't know what I'll be doing with myself every other Monday evening. But, I leave with, as Carrie alluded to, this is very much a passion project of mine. It's rewarding. My life is going to change dramatically running a dual language immersion charter school. But it is a passion project, and not too many people get the opportunity to start something completely from scratch. So that's the place that I am at this point. It's a little bit of a risk, but if we don't risk anything in life, what do we actually achieve? So, I can honestly say in my 31 years of my career, I've never had a better 10 than I have as the superintendent of Mendon-Upton. So, I do have a tinge of sadness in my heart, maybe even a little more than a tinge, just leaving all of you, leaving my leadership team, leaving the staff, the kids, and the community. I've been blessed to be here for the last 10 years, and I'll never forget the work that has been done and the relationships that I've formed. So I appreciate it immensely.
I'll just chime in. I'll echo everyone else's sentiments and just I really appreciate your leadership over the 3 years I've been on the committee and the previous 7 years, and particularly during this last year and all the challenges that came along with it.
It was dog years this last year, to say the least. Yeah.
Wish you well with the new adventure.
Thank you.
As I understand it, your final day will be August 1st?
August 1st.
Okay,
Correct.
so we appreciate all of your help from now until then.
Absolutely. 24 days, but who's counting?
Okay, so then we'll need to make a motion to accept the resignation.
I make a motion to accept Dr. Maruschek's resignation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This motion passes. Sorry to see you. And then we need to talk then as a committee about scheduling another meeting to talk about that resignation and the next steps.
I think I would suggest that tonight, with Joe's announcement of his resignation, we should probably discuss the appointment of Dr. Cohen as the interim superintendent, so that they can make sure that we've got the right overlap to transition.
Right.
And then we will also probably need an executive session. We'll have to schedule at a future date because we can't do it within the 48-hour limit, in which to just make sure we're handling any kind of negotiations on an interim contract for Dr. Cohen as well.
Okay, so then what I'm hearing is that we'll need, based on some discussions that we've had previously in executive session, we need a motion to accept Maureen Cohen as the interim superintendent.
Yes.
Motion, anyone?
Yeah, motion to have a meeting to discuss the interim superintendent.
I think we're making a
Motion
motion.
tonight,
Yeah,
Oh,
motion
motion.
to accept Dr. Cohen as the interim superintendent.
Okay, that would be brilliant. A motion to accept Dr. Cohen as the interim superintendent.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And motion passes. Congratulations.
Do you mind if I say something?
I would love to have you say so.
Thanks. I never want to pass up an opportunity. And also to say something about Joe too, but first I just want to thank the committee for your support and for the opportunity to serve as interim superintendent following Joe's departure. And I appreciate your faith and confidence in me, and it would be an honor to serve in this role and serve students and staff and our community members. I want to say that I consider myself extremely fortunate to continue the vision.
My apologies.
No, that's all right. I got the laughter after, that's good. Can we do that? Can I joke?
We can try that.
Yeah,
We can
no,
try the
but-
laugh track, sure.
I'm really, I feel extremely fortunate to have worked so closely with Joe for the 8 years that I've been here. And I'm really excited to continue the work with the team. I know I have really big shoes to fill, but I'm committed to doing my very best to advance our strategic plan, focus on student learning in the post-pandemic environment, and to connect with our community and reconnect as we start into the next school year. So just want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Happy to have you on board.
Okay, so do we need to pick a meeting date at this point?
I would suggest probably within the next week we post, maybe next week. We post just for a session, we can jump into executive session and we'll also give Dr. Cohen any time she needs to think about things she would have or want inside of that interim contract. To allow us to connect with Mike Long from a legal perspective. Allow us to kind of dot the i's and cross the t's for this. But I don't think that slows down any transition between Dr. Ruszczyk and Dr. Cohen.
So then we move to our next item of new business, which is the Emergency Joint Town Meeting discussion and finalization of a date. Based on some feedback that I've gotten from the community, I'm hearing that the end of July might be a good time to shoot for. Does anybody have thoughts, discussion?
So I think, I guess I would raise the following thought, which is, I think we're working through three paths right now. One, we're working through a path of, some discussions with the select board in Mendon, as well as the FinCom in Mendon to understand some of the budgetary components and the pieces and understand what's there, can be done, or how it could be done, impacts and things like that. Second thing we're working through, I know, is on our side, looking at the budget and funding sources as we now have more information from the end of the year. I know Jay Beyer has been working through that with him kind of in and out with his surgery and stuff. But I know that's taking some time, so we've got to do that. And then the third path is really trying to set some time to for a joint town meeting. I guess my recommendation, and it's just a recommendation, I would actually push it more towards the middle to the end of August to allow us time across those different paths to, conduct other discussions, delving deep into the pieces that we need, getting better understanding, those kinds of things. It's not necessarily, it's just the suggestion I would make.
So obviously in this discussion, I think we had a little bit of it last week. We had a lot of responses from the public about concern about letting the teachers go until the end of their contract, actually. And the possibility that we would see them leave because we're setting a late date on the joint town meeting. So I wonder if there's a consideration that we can make for making it a bit earlier than that. Not fully understanding all of the logistics that need to go into this. I really don't have a good feeling for when the meeting should be, quite frankly. You know, it seems like if we had it at the end of July, we'd be satisfying the purposes of keeping as much staff as possible, making sure we're all not dealing with a bunch of ambiguities before the school year, getting prepared to run up again, and doing it that soon may actually cost us some time and some problems with getting people out to the meeting as well. So I'm at a toss-up right now, and appreciate anybody else's point of view on that.
I believe we were advised by our district council to target mid to late August, correct? So I think that was taking into account, like, you know, all of the logistics that would be involved in planning a meeting of this scope. So that's something to consider as well.
I've also gotten some feedback from the town side asking for as early as possible, just to give the towns time to reconcile whatever budgetary decisions are made as well. So I feel like there's a lot. I guess I don't understand the logistics that would require moving more towards the end of August. And how that weighs against, you know, the longer we wait, the more likely we are to lose quality staff versus putting extra stress on folks who need to make financial decisions based on how that town meeting goes. So,
So I think there's a couple of things. One, I think the sooner it is, I think the less participation you're going to have, because the end of July is going to be smack in the middle of summer. And whether you want to admit it or not, I think many people are going to be out.
Yeah.
I agree with your comment around having it sooner, but at the same point in time, I also think, you know, whether we do it maybe even mid-August, there's an opportunity that allows us to get into a deeper level of collaboration with the Mendon Select Board and the FinCom on our own side to work through some of the pieces to understand what can be done to avoid something like this. Because if we, you know, no town wants to have the will of two towns imposed on it. And, you know, those kinds of things would have impacts. So the point being is that, you know, it gives us some time, a little bit of time to maneuver, but at the same point, I understand the need for urgency. So I think, you know, my point about recommending the middle of August was more about giving ourselves some flexibility to do what we need to do, but also at the same point in time, not pushing things so far out. I don't know, I'd have to, you know, I defer to Dr. Cohen or Dr. Marushek that if we wait 2 more weeks from the end of July to the middle of August, does that really impact us that dramatically in terms of staffing?
It does. For what it's worth, a voice from the lame duck at the center of the table, I would say move sooner rather than later. That, as we've said in numerous school committee meetings, right now with regard to teachers, it is very much a buyer's market. And the concern is, if you're looking at something like August 15th, and we're literally starting the school year on August 30th, that gives you 2 weeks to post a position and then find a qualified candidate. I can tell you, after 31 years, 20 of which being a soup and a principal, you do not find high-quality candidates during the month of August. You find candidates that, you know, not to be disrespectful, but have kind of been picked over by other places. So I think the sooner that there's a resolution to this issue, and then to your point, that we could work collaboratively with the Mendon Select Board, I think that's the smarter play.
So we've got 3 weeks, 2 days until the end of July, and 5 weeks to July 11th.
August.
I'm sorry, August 11th.
So, yeah, Sean, if you don't mind me throwing something out there, and I'm not an expert in the Mendon side, town charters or anything like that, but I think, you know, if the selectmen and FinCom are able to help and we're able to kind of work through something, I think it's likely gonna have to go to the town meeting, right, to move dollars between budgets, if I understand that process correctly. And I think, you know, just kind of printing it out, it looks like it's a 14-day notice that has to be posted for that. And so, you know, if the selectmen are meeting next week, I think it's online, it's the next scheduled meeting. If you fast forward 2 weeks for a posting, you know, that's July 28th. I think, you know, in the spirit of moving fast, almost any day after the 28th starts to make the most amount of sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, even, I don't know what kind of day we want to do, but do we look at something like Friday, July 30th?
I think you're gonna need a weekend day.
Okay, then July 31st.
Or the 29th.
Can I ask?
I'm sorry.
I'm just asking the question because, I mean, we have selectmen Rowley here. I just, from the standpoint of timing, to be able to do a special town meeting, what would we be looking at in time in terms of Mendon or something like that?
Well, I mean, I would suggest that it's gonna take a month for us to get our act together to, you know, to move it forward. And I think, I hear everything that you're saying, but I think we're all on the same page that we're still trying to avoid this, right? And I think picking a date, you know, sooner than a month from now is gonna make that very difficult. And I would agree with you that in different scenarios, I don't know how we would do that without a run special, especially keeping in mind that, you know, that the override didn't pass twice. We'd love to find some kind of compromise. I think we probably can, especially with Biden bucks and other things that are going on. While I've got the opportunity to speak, I do want to make it clear that whatever we resolve at this point, we need to start immediately on next year, right? I think we need to change that model. And I know Joe is always chomping at the bit to get to us. We need to, and I have talked to the other two members of the board, and where all three of us are in agreement that whatever gets resolved here, once we begin to move forward, we want to begin right away looking at so we don't get this into the same situation again. But again, I just don't think it's realistic. If you really want to resolve this somewhere, and I understand you want to do it quickly, I just don't see how you get it done if you pick a date that gives us less than a month from now to talk about it. So maybe rather than, you know, July 30th, maybe one more week, whether it's that Friday or Saturday, might be a good compromise, even though there may be slim pickings in some ways. I don't know how it's going to.
Well, what if we did it that week of August, what is it, 11th or August 9th, the week of August 9th?
Or even the week of August 2nd. I mean, if he's saying we can do 4 weeks, that puts us at August, Wednesday, August 4.
I'd say at least 4 weeks, especially where, you know, we're going to have a meeting next week, and I think there's a hope to get some kind of a meeting of the mind of the chairs or whatever before that. So
that 4
I would
weeks.
say the 11th,
Yeah.
the 2nd, but
Yeah, so
it's your
the
choice.
4 weeks there would be the 4th, right? Correct. Which is, that's right in the middle of that week. So I'm just saying the following week on the Monday or Tuesday, or whatever the weekend day is, the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we actually ask for some advice on that. I mean, would you recommend an evening or a Saturday morning for joint town meeting?
Well, my recollection, I know there's a prior select board member here, but I think that the attendance at our Saturday morning meeting was great.
And I would say the same thing from an Upton perspective. We need a Saturday.
I mean, that's kind of starting to screen towards August 7th, Saturday, August 7th.
Okay, that sounds great. I think that's a good idea.
It's 31 days from today.
So I'd like to make a motion to set the date of the joint town meeting to be August 7th, 2020.
Excuse me, could I speak just for like 1 minute? 1 minute, please? It won't take long. When the town of Mendon-Upton formed the regional school committee back in the middle 60s, just trying to see who these people are here. Our leaders in the town were very reluctant to go along with it for the simple reason is they saw the flaw in the whole thing, whereas any regional district is basically a government unto themselves. And they could see that if the school committee members did not want to go along with what the people of the town of Mendon wanted, they didn't have to. They were very reluctant to go along with it, but they said it will never happen. Whatever the people of the town of Mendon vote, the school committee from the Mendon side of it will agree with that and vote that way at the meeting. So here we have 2 elections where the people said no to the extra money. What's the point of the election? What's the point? Why do we spend all this money and go through all this time if you're not going to honor what the voters of Mendon wanted? It's not your money, it's our money. Now, I don't want to get into all I have with Superintendent at the radio station before. We've gone at it, and but what's the point? Why are you disrespecting the people of Mendon when twice they voted no to that extra money? Right? We're asking you to come together with some kind of a compromise and figure this thing out. But you're going to drag us into a joint town meeting? What's the alternative that you leave us? To dissolve the district, Mendon has to have its own schools? Because this is just the tip of the iceberg. All right? What if the new superintendent decides to have even more staff and even smaller classes? All right? I know all the stories. Well, the state doesn't do this and the state won't that. I know all that. I know about all the pockets of money. I know about all this. All right? You have a lot of money. You have very small class sizes. I believe that the superintendent, this is how I feel about him. And I like the man.
I buy your corn.
Yeah, he buys my corn. You know, I don't make things personal, but I think he thinks a classroom should be a teacher, 14 kids, and a psychiatrist. That's his paradigm. All right? And I've heard him speak many times. So anyway, what's the point? Why disrespect the voters of Mendon when twice they said no to this money? You know, I understand you don't have to respect them, but what alternative do we have? Do we have a recall election? Do we dissolve the district? What alternative are you giving? Because this is just going to go on. This is going to go on. Raising money, raising the taxes, spending more money, and we think you're in your own little world down here. All right? We think what these kids have is like a private school type education. We think we shouldn't have to support that. We think you should cut things. What's wrong with having some lesser teachers come in for a lesser salary? You know, so anyway, I've said enough. I've said enough. He buys my corn. He probably never will again. By the way, where is the city you're going? Is it Providence?
It is.
Oh, well, I wish you well.
Thank you.
It sounds very interesting. You know, bilingual charter school. Sounds very interesting. But anyhow, it's wrong. It's wrong to put the town of Mendon through this. It's wrong, right? It never for decades, it was never like that. The school committee respected the people. This whole thing is wrong. To take this any further, you need to find a compromise. You need to figure this thing out. Thank you.
I'm sorry, sir, we haven't met. What is your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Dennis Shaheen.
Dennis, it's nice to meet
The
you.
Shah of Heen. Okay, the Maharashi of Mendon, I tell people.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's quite a title. Thank you for your,
Just kidding.
thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. And I think that's why the committee is interested in moving to a joint town meeting in order to respect both the voters from Upton and Mendon to
No.
achieve a balance of the.
No, the committee members from Mendon should
Mendon.
respect what Mendon said, Mendon voted, and not go along with this any further.
And thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think,
Carrie,
yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just got a text message from Lonnie Tenure, said he had his hand up, but his comment
This isn't
was-
really
I'm
the-
sorry, we hadn't opened for community comments yet, so
Right.
that's why
So
his hand
that-
wasn't
that's-
recognized.
Well, that's what, so the comment that he made was that if we're going to do it on a Saturday, he's suggesting we do it starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, rather than doing it in the morning. So that if we are gonna do it on a Saturday, it's late enough in the day, so that, parents with kids with sports and all other things can give them time to get there. So I would just suggest that if you are gonna pick a Saturday, that the time be, in the afternoon, he suggested 4 o'clock.
Thanks.
And I wouldn't disagree with that.
Okay, so I believe we were at the point where we were looking at Saturday, August 7th, as a date for a joint town meeting.
This is moved, not seconded.
It was moved, not seconded, okay.
Which I will second.
Thank you. Okay, second the motion, okay. Dorothy's still not with us?
I do not see her.
Okay, so then all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, and the motion passes and we have a joint town meeting set for Saturday, August 7th. Do we need to pick a time now or can we?
I think we can work that through as we talk with the select boards for the moderator selection.
Yeah.
And the recommendations that are there.
Yeah.
And we start to work through the logistics.
Yeah.
Because we'll need the warrant, we'll need to post it, we'll leave for 14 days.
Okay.
So that means we have about approximately 2 weeks to get these pieces put together.
Okay.
I think, can I say one quick thing? I think it's important for people to understand, and I have listened to Mr. Shaheen, and I understand his point, and I understand what he says, but he also, this is the mechanism that we have, because on the other side, Upton has spoken in the affirmative.
Right.
So if the Upton voters had said at the town meeting, we're not going to give you the other components of the money, versus the strong, resounding, overwhelming support that we got, it might have been a different kind of conversation.
Right.
But right now, this is the only way we have. So when we talk about respecting the view of people, we're talking about the collective view of people, which is just as important to respect what Upton says as what Mendon says. So.
Can I just one point, the warrant needs to be signed at a public meeting, so we need to meet again in 2 weeks, like when the warrant is ready.
So I know we need to have an executive session. We'll probably have that next week, and then if we're targeting the 7th, we'd probably then maybe have another meeting after in which to sign. And maybe also by that point in time, we'll be further down the other two paths of understanding the pieces, that we can have some additional conversation about what that all means at this point.
So, moving on then to community comments.
Now it's time.
Now it's time for community comments, that's right. Do things in the proper order here.
I have Mr. Lonnie Tenio, from Mendon, who just put his hand down.
I think, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I think his, well, he put it down.
It was the Saturday comments, correct?
Comment that
Yeah.
I communicated.
Okay, all right, perfect. I have a question from Ms. Donna Shalali. May I ask why a weeknight joint town meeting is not an option? Why does it have to be a Saturday?
I think at the end of the day, it's summertime, right? There's no good answer to that question, right? It's a combination of kids' sports, vacations, et cetera. And I think there's some input from people who've run these meetings in the past that you're gonna get a higher attendance on a Saturday. And if I look at this from Mendon, I know we've run our town meetings on Saturday mornings recently. It sounds like Upton's done the same, but I think as a group, it was the best council we had.
Yeah, I would say, in that case, if we're doing it early, we have, Saturdays or Sundays are usually changeover days for vacation, so people are coming back, people are going. So this provides, I think, a little more flexibility for those families, being respectful of that. Also, it's, there are some people that do work on Saturday, I do understand that, but more people that don't, so.
Right.
I have, Mr. Tenio has his hand raised, so I'll allow him to talk.
Hey, everyone, yeah, again, I just kind of want to echo that I don't know that there's any good time, any good day, especially when we're in July or August. I mean, unless it was going to be later August, but the date's already been picked. Only because later August, everybody's back for start of sports and whatnot, but it's not great for teacher selection, so I understand that. I would, really just say that there's no great day. You could pick Wednesday, but Wednesday's not going to be a good day either for somebody. So we kind of just have to pick the day and then try to nail down a time. I think that makes the most sense as you press forward.
That makes sense.
Thank you. Any further comments?
I have a hand raised from Mr. Michael Krager. So, Mr. Krager, you are allowed to talk as of now.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, can you please state your name and the town where you reside too? I'm sorry, I should have said that before we started comment.
Yep, Michael Krager from Mendon. I couldn't disagree further with some of the previous speakers about the feeling of a good portion of the town. The vote within Mendon was really close. One of the best things about a constitutional republic is that we are able to not have three wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. In the essence of trying to come to some sort of compromise, I said this the last meeting and I'll say it again. I would prefer to see the committee open up the operational budget and go for level services as a handout to the people of Mendon who are looking for some sort of give in order to help maybe get some further support at the joint town meeting from the town of Mendon. I think it's pretty clear that they're looking for something. Well, it's pretty impossible to get a no voter to tell me how much they're actually looking for. I would love for at least one of them, just one, to tell me how much they were looking for the reduction. But maybe they will come together for a level services budget versus the budget that's being asked for now.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael, that's well understood.
Yeah.
Good input.
I see no more hands raised.
Then seeing no further comments, we'll move to other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of the posted meeting. Seeing none, I would love to hear a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is